Hello Superset Maniacs and welcome back to another 2024 Mr. Olympia preview video. Today we're going to discuss the best and worst pose for every qualified athlete, so without further ado, let's jump right in. Derek Lunsford is your reigning champion and he is unbeatable in the back poses, especially in the back double biceps, which is the best in the world today. On the other side of the spectrum, we have the front lat spread as his weakest pose. The abs and thighs or the most muscular could be considered, but his weaknesses are most obvious in the front lat spread. Hardi Chupan is your runner-up in 2023 and the 2022 winner. His best pose is the abs and thighs, where overall he's one of the best of all time. On the other side of the spectrum, we have the back double biceps. Not a very weak pose, but the weakest for him, this fact showcasing his overall completeness in the mandatories. Samson Dauda is your third place finisher at the Olympia last year. His strongest poses are the ones where his overall thickness is showcased, like the side chest and most muscular, and I'm gonna go with the side chest for first. He's the weakest from the back, and I believe his back lat spread is his weaker pose out of the back poses. Theola Grier's strongest shot would be his side triceps, showcasing an aesthetic look and a thick lateral head of the triceps. His weakest pose is the back lat spread, lacking both width and depth to his back overall. Rafael Brandao is an interesting case. He's very balanced, looking closely good in all mandatories. If I had to choose his strongest pose, I would go with the most muscular, where he showcases great volume. As for his weaker pose, I'd go with the back pose, namely the back lat spread, as I believe his back double is pretty decent. Martin Fitzwater's best pose is definitely the most muscular, especially the crab variation, where he is one of the best in the world today. His weakest pose has to be the front lat spread, as he's pretty narrow shoulder to shoulder. In the rest, he's pretty balanced through all the poses. Nick Walker has some poses where he's a contender for best in the world and one or two where he's one of the weakest on the Olympia stage. His strongest pose has to be the most muscular, especially the hands clasped variation, his signature pose. His weakest pose, as expected, is obviously the front lat spread due to his proportions. Tonio Burton is not doing the Olympia, but he qualified still, so let's see. His strongest pose, I would say, is the back double biceps, and his weakest is the abs and thighs. He's one of those very balanced through all mandatories. Hakeem Williams is an underrated mass monster. His poses, like the most muscular and especially the side chest, which is my pick for his best pose, are world class. That side leg is the best in the world. His weakest poses are obviously the back poses due to the lack of density in the lower lat region, and the back double is the worst out of the two in my opinion. Brandon Curry is very strong in all poses when we're talking upper body. When it comes to the lower body, from the side he's strongest, so the side chest becomes his best pose. His crab most muscular could be considered as well. His weakest pose is the abs and thighs. Obviously the thighs pose plus his washed out abs. His V-taper is great though. Over 72% of you watching my videos in the past 3 months are not subscribed. If you're enjoying this content, please consider subscribing as I aim for that 30k subs milestone. Your support means a lot, thank you. William Bonac, if we were talking prime, his back poses could be considered as his best poses, but since we're talking nowadays, his side triceps is his most powerful pose. His weakest pose is a no-brainer, the abs and thighs, due to his almost non-existent ab separation and bad proportions. Behrouz Tabani is another balanced bodybuilder who looks decent in all poses. As for his strongest mandatory, his most muscular is definitely his signature pose, his hands clasped variation. As for the weakest pose, there is not an obvious one, but I would argue the side triceps, since I believe he can do better with the execution. Nathan DeAsha is another athlete that it's unlikely to get on that Olympia stage due to visa issues. His strongest pose is the most muscular. As for his strong shoulders and arms, his weakest pose is the front lat spread. His long torso and high inserting lats are a bad combo for him. John Jewett is strongest in the front double biceps in my opinion, due to his impressive peaky biceps coupled with the sunken in midsection. His weakest pose would be the abs and thighs. The reason he's doing this side variation, which personally I don't like, it's almost more like a most muscular than an abs and thighs pose. Mohamed Fouda is pretty balanced through all poses except from the back. His strongest pose would be the side chest if you ask me, mostly because of his overall thickness. His worst pose is the back double biceps. He won't be defeating too many opponents in that shot at the Olympia. Jonathan De La Rosa is a case where almost every pose is the same in terms of strength. I would argue that his side chest is a stronger pose due to his overall thickness in both upper and lower body. Ironically, as his worst pose, I would put the other side pose, the side triceps, for his weak triceps and terrible muscle separation through the arm. When it comes to Andrew Jacked, one of his superb 3 front poses are all contenders for first, but I gotta go with the abs and thighs, which is his signature pose after all. His weakest pose might surprise you. It's not a back or side pose, but the 4th front pose actually, the most muscular. The execution is a big factor for this. Hunter Labrada's best pose would be the side triceps, which, when he's on, is one of the best of all time, I would dare to say, especially the Dorian-esque execution. His weakest pose is the abs and thighs. He has almost no ab separation, despite having some of the strongest thighs in the lineup. Last but not least is Bruno Santos, with his best pose being the side triceps, mostly because of his nice thick lateral head. He's another case of a more balanced bodybuilder, and one of his weaker poses would be the front lat spread for having high lats and proportionally bigger arms, which overshadow them. What do you think of my picks? Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe to help me hit my 30k subs milestone. See you in the next video.